Thanksgiving is a time for sharing and friendship, and for a lot of us, that includes our four-legged friends. This Thanksgiving, the biggest threat to your pet might not be the turkey, it's the gravy bowl. Dr. Catherine Kuhit, veterinarian at VCA Dudley Avenue Animal Hospital, says there are a lot of things you to think about before feeding your pet from the dinner table this holiday. Several foods, such as gravy, casseroles, deep-fried foods, and many desserts contain ingredients that are toxic to animals and could cause fever, fatigue, seizures, and pancreatitis. Foods that have the sugar substitute xylitol, such as no-sugar desserts and some peanut butters, are toxic to our furry friends. It's not just about what we feed our pets, but it's also important about how we prepare the food.
It kind of depends on how you're cooking your turkey. So meaning, like, if you're putting it in the deep fryer, I probably wouldn't give your dog anything from a deep fryer, just because the high fat content from the fryer tends to not bode well, especially with smaller patients. So we worry about pancreatitis. It's one of the biggest things that we see around the holidays are GI symptoms and pancreatitis. So high fat meals. So that also means your gravy. Probably don't give your gravy to your dog. If you're roasting or baking your turkey, the leaner parts of meat, like you or I would prefer, generally are safe.
For more information on what is safe to feed your pet,